Chiefs had a fun day out on the shore, but it is one of those things that has to get done. The Chiefs come away 6-0. How did they do it? What comes next? Mahomes versus Purdy was pretty much one thing, though the numbers look the same. Get into it all with Matt and Derrick live now on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. We are live following the 49ers Chiefs rematch of the Super Bowl. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell here on YouTube. Join us on Spotify and Apple Music and get it everywhere. Thanks for making us your first listen post game. Check out the other side of the coin or another Locked On show coming up next. Get over to ChiefsDigest.com and check them out as well, because we are free for you every single day and then some on all of our platforms. Plus, we're going to give you more over on our text line at 816-357-8781. You can find Matt's work up at ChiefsDigest.com and Chiefs Digest here on YouTube. You can find Chris over at KC Chiefs Corner. You can get my work over at NFL33.com and RGR Football. And we are set to go. We're going to give you who stood out and our game balls, who gets the recognition coming up later in the show. The defense certainly had a day out. We'll hit that in the next segment. But it comes down to what it always comes down is you had the better quarterback today. It was ugly quarterback play for the majority of the day. And this mirror right down the middle, Matt, actually stood out in just what they weren't able to do in terms of their wide receiver cores, the ability of them to really stretch the field. Neither had a lot of success. They both ended up running one in, although Purdy's was in garbage time. This was not really a rematch of that Super Bowl. This is two teams going in opposite directions, and the Chiefs are 6-0. Is that the biggest takeaway that we should have today?
Yeah, and certainly as the game progressed, it certainly didn't feel like a Super Bowl rematch because these two teams were so banged up, especially offensively. Neither one of them was at full power, and and they lost assets during the game that made it so more so. But you're right, Ryan. I mean, you look at it, the stat lines for these quarterbacks, neither one of them is particularly pretty. 2 interceptions, 3 interceptions. Best passer rating of the day was a 44.4. Nothing was pretty about it, but hey, and they both had a couple of rushing touchdowns. But it comes down to making plays, and one quarterback was able to just make enough plays at the right time. And who do you think it was? Of course, it's Patrick Mahomes. Purdy had a couple of moments, but nothing like the highs that Mahomes did. And obviously that run that he had with the ball fake, that's something only he can do. I mean, Lamar Jackson is faster and more elusive. He doesn't have to pull out any tricks. Lamar can just run past people and run past them and juke them and everything. Mahomes has to use the Magic Johnson pump fake to get guys out of his way, but he does it and it works and it's effective. And the dude just seems to do it at the exact right time when something's needed. And this was a great example of that today.
Tennessee-esque is what I will say on that run. It looked almost identical to that Tennessee play that he had in the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago. Or at least I think it was the AFC Championship. It was a fantastic run by him. But honestly, my favorite play by Mahomes was him trucking Mustafa on the goal line. I did not expect that. Kyle Brandt actually tweeted out, does Mahomes get a scepter? And I think that it'd be funny if Mahomes gets a scepter for trucking Mustafa at the goal line for the touchdown. Obviously, you don't want him to throw up 2 picks. We'll talk about that probably a little bit more. But really, Worthy falling on one of them, I don't really put that on Patrick. And I'm not even sure I'd put the first one on him. You got to get the ball through, or you got to make throws. And so that was a great play by the defensive lineman to get his hand up. So I thought Mahomes played better than his stats really show. And what really mattered was he made plays when it counted, or he made plays when it mattered the most. That run was a huge play, but there were several different throws, and Noah Gray kept coming up as well. So congratulations to this team for finding a way to win, going down Juju Smith-Schuster early in the game.
The most important thing to me on that run, though, that was the difference between the Tennessee run, was that at least this time he didn't sacrifice his body. That's the important thing that Mahomes needs to do, is take care of yourself, especially in a game like this. It's as hard fought as it was, and guys were getting banged up. Don't take any unnecessary hits that you don't have to.
I think that's critically important for him in pretty much at all times. But it's also important for some other guys not to take hits too. I think what we saw, in my opinion, Matt, was an offense searching for how it could move forward with some skill players that aren't quite ready to contribute as the guys that get leaned on. Obviously, with Juju pulling up at that point, that takes away a significant portion of it. They still tried to target Xavier Worthy 8 times. Xavier had one really nice hit. He got clobbered by that same Mustafa, who came out on the positive side of that.
Yep.
Yet he took the hit. We know that he did get a little bit banged up. I didn't see anything permanent there with him, but they attempted to. And I think that is just an age deficit at this point. As he matures and gets into it, much like Rashee Rice last season, they will be able to force feed him later in the year. We're just not there yet. So who picked up the slack? If you told me there was going to be one tight end with 66 yards and one with 17, I would not have guessed Noah Gray was the guy. Is that the biggest standout for the guys who made up the difference, Matt?
Yeah, and the fact that Travis Kelce only had 17, because it seemed like the 4 catches that he had were all crucial big catches, and it came at absolutely opportune moments that they needed him. But Noah Gray, I mean, we've talked about it. This has been, the elusiveness of Noah Gray having a game like this. It's season 4, and and so many people have still been looking for Noah Gray to have a breakout season and have breakout type games. I mean, this is the best game of his career. His highs, he had 4 catches a couple of weeks ago, and he'd had 45 yards in a couple of games, but now 4 for 66. It's clearly the best game of his career, and came at, once again, a great time, because the Chiefs needed something. I mean, once Juju went down in particular early in the game, you knew the Chiefs were going to be leaning even further on 2, 3, 4 tight end sets, and we saw that. You knew that they were going to be leaning on that more, and they needed somebody that once again, pick up, because even in some of the isolations you saw on the broadcast, even like on Mahomes' touchdown rush on the draw up the middle, I mean, that was designed for Kelce. Kelce was double teamed. There was no way that he was going to end up being open. And they held him too. I mean, the 49ers were just making sure that Travis Kelce was not getting a touchdown on that play. But that's how life is for Travis Kelce right now. I mean, it's the way it's always been. It's harder for him to beat those double teams now because the man is 35 years old. So that's part of it. But, once again, that's going to happen. It's who is going to step up. In week 5, it was Juju. Juju stepped up and had the big game. 4 for 66 might not be crucial, but it was crucial in this game, because nobody was having a performance like that. I mean, Kittle goes for 6 for 92, and, Gray was the second best receiver this entire game. So not big numbers, but big for this game and the way that it played out. So, I mean, I still want to see more from Noah Gray, especially once he's got the contract extension. Like, come on, Noah, you need to have the breakout season. It's still think of it as a contract year, Noah.
154 yards for Mahomes, 66 of it went to Noah Gray. Did not see that coming, but we did find out that Mahomes actually can overthrow Xavier Worthy on this game. That was kind of surprising to me, but I'm glad that they took the deep shot. They need to continue to work on that. But Noah Gray stepped up in a big moment. And I have to give credit where credit's due. Kareem Hunt has played fantastic for this team, and he just continues to be a workhorse back for this team. It's fantastic to watch, and I love seeing him succeed.
Yeah, the 3.5 yards a carry is not real glossy, but once again, you see the way that the 49ers were playing defense. The Chiefs' offensive line just kind of struggled across the board in the first half. I thought it was much better in the second half, at least especially as far as, giving Mahomes a little bit more time in the pocket than they did in the first half. The running lanes weren't really there for the most part. I mean, Kareem was just kind of, there was a couple of holes that he was able to slip through. The 13-yard gain was at that point, the longest run by a running back the Chiefs have had this year. But it's been tough sledding for these running backs. But, Kareem has brought some consistency. I'll be interested to see what happens, because, my 2 questions about Kareem coming into this team, one was, and I didn't really see was much of a question. I don't think he's got the speed that he once had. That's okay. He can do other things for this team, and he's obviously a lot stronger than he used to be. But, last season in Cleveland, he was banged up, but the yards per carry wasn't there. So the question for me is, can he sustain the production that he had in his first couple of games with the Chiefs going forward, and especially after like the 27 carries he had before the bye week? And this was kind of a give and take. I mean, it kind of went both two different ways on this one, because Kareem had a very productive game, 2 touchdowns, 78 yards on a day when yards were hard to come by, but 3.5 yards a carry is not great. So you're hoping that going forward, he can be more efficient than that. But at the same time, he, just like Mahomes, he gave this team the yards that they needed when they needed them.
That's what it comes down to. You got to make the plays when they're in front of you. He did that. So did some young guys on defense to lead the way and make this another defensive outing that looked a little bit different, but still got the job done. Who stood out coming up next?
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's something that scares you? There can be lots of different fears, whether it's heights or, going into the oceans. I know a lot of people actually have that. I love it going diving, but there are lots of different things that scare people. Halloween lets us have fun with what scares us, but what about those fears that don't involve zombies and ghosts? Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them. Because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/lockedon. BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, and that's right, free online courses right now, including Introduction to Free Market Economics. You can check out some history with the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, and even check out The Great American Story, A Land of Hope. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever you want, you can tune in whenever you want, and you can finish whenever you want. You can go deeper with readings and quizzes and discussions, or just sit back and enjoy the lectures. Go over to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. It's at hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Folks, make sure you check out ChiefsDigest.com to see Matt, KC Chiefs Corner, to see Chris and all of his work, and jump over and check out NFL 33 and RGR Football for me. A lot going on here, and we'll get these windows sorted, and you can break it all back down to opportunity. The Chiefs had to run against a stout defense. They also brought their stout defense and were able to make sure that Brock Purdy had to carry the load if they were going to get anything done. And that produced 3 different turnovers. Kudos to Jay Reed for getting it started, but as the game wore on, it was young guys that contributed more and more. And Matt, to me, this is a story of the two ends of a defense having to help each other out and providing pressure in the middle. The pass rush producing a condensed pocket, not allowing Purdy to really feel comfortable in stepping up. I think that led to some of these picks. And I think that the guys taking opportunities like CRW and obviously Jaden Hicks in the red zone, great big-time plays from young guys that is just bolstering the future of this defense.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Hicks making plays, no surprise to me. It's just a matter of, you're looking at the number. I think he played 7 defensive snaps all season this year, and it felt like he had at least a couple of tackles. I mean, I know he made one play in those that was really impressive. And then doesn't get more than probably a handful of snaps today, but comes up with the interception, the right place at the right time. And Chris Roland Wallace's interception was the exact same. I mean, he peeled off the receiver because he knew where the ball was going. Either I couldn't tell from the timing of it whether he just flat out saw it or he read it and just realized where the ball was going. But he read the play better than the receiver did. I mean, that was really impressive. And once again, I mean, it comes down to right place and right time. If you're a young guy and you can do that, you're gonna make plays. And obviously, give a big credit to George Karlaftis. I mean, on that play, he gets credit for a quarterback hit, a pressure. That'll show up in the box score, but it really doesn't tell the story that George Karlaftis made that interception possible. I mean, the pressure that he put on Purdy, and honestly, I was pretty impressed with the pressure throughout most of the day. Even though they only ended up getting 1 sack, they should have had more. I know Leo Chenal is going to absolutely be asking himself how in the world Purdy got away from him on one of those sacks. They should have had him a couple of other times. That's Purdy. I mean, he give him credit. He can be just as Mahomes-like as anybody sometimes in eluding pressure in the pocket. Did a really good job, but obviously he couldn't avoid trouble all day. And some of the Chiefs' young guys, like you said, were there to make some big plays when they needed them.
I was laughing when Matt's talking about Chris Roland Wallace because it was funny watching him chop his feet. He had to have gotten 5 steps down on the sideline on that interception. It was glorious. It was fantastic watching him, do that. And then Jaden Hicks, you're right. I didn't see him out there a ton, but I'm pretty sure I saw all 4 safeties on the field for a couple of different snaps. And that's something that you haven't normally seen. Usually, they'll go 3, but I could have sworn I saw all 4 out there on the field at one time. So something to watch there. This defense has continued to step up. I absolutely loved what I saw from Karlaftis. Jones didn't get Purdy, but he was causing havoc the entire game, and I think that showed. And you look at this defense. Justin Reed getting that interception early on really kind of flipped the way this game I thought was going to go, just because you get you go for it on your punt and you don't get it, and you give the ball right back to him and you get it right back. I mean, that's the type of play Kansas City hasn't had a ton of. They haven't been able to force turnovers. Yeah, Mahomes threw 2 picks, but getting 3 turnovers on the day really helped this defense and really helped this team. And this is the way that they're going to win right now, because with all the injuries on offense, they're going to have to continue to play spectacular defense.
Well, you can't expect the undefeated streak to continue if you're not winning the turnover battle. So Finally doing that today is a big step in the right direction. And that's, it's 2 ways. I mean, one, the defense, as good as it's played, has got to be more opportunistic. The thing going forward is still offense needs to protect the football better. And I'm with you. I'm not putting those interceptions completely on Mahomes. I think they were kind of team efforts, but that goes back to it. It is protecting the football is a team effort.
It certainly is. And you have to be able to take that into account and then try to pressure the other team into giving it up a little bit more. When you tally them, you had tackles for loss from a number of players here, both in the secondary and luckily at the linebacker level with both Bolton, Leo Chanel getting some, George Karlaftis obviously with a lot of pressure, had a TFL as well, McDuffie, and Felix Jones, who I thought was able to crush down the pocket and collapse it enough to help everything else go around. And I'm glad to see he got on the stat sheet. But did that stand out to you, Matt, or who else made an impact that really made the difference?
From being from the home office today and watching the game, one thing that I thought it was one thing I noticed, from listening to Tom Brady talk about it, one of the things that he really obsessed about was, defenders running past the quarterback. And that's just something that you didn't see the Chiefs do a whole lot of, and especially Felix. That's one of the things that I think is, at least to his credit, is that as he's kind of continuing to grow and mature in that role and learn things, he's probably a better run defender at this point and an edge setter than he is just purely going after the quarterback. And so I think that has come through in a couple of ways. I mean, you saw it obviously in the Super Bowl when he had that big play against Christian McCaffrey. I think you saw it again today. I mean, there's a reason why that this Chiefs team plays good defense. And it's not just, the things that we talk about as far as up the middle defense. It's guys like Felix doing their job and setting the edge when they get a chance to. And there is something to be said for, having a young guy on the edge who knows his role and knows what to do and isn't trying to just make hero plays. And, and there were times that probably today that the 49ers were doing that. I mean, they've got some more experienced guys and they were trying to make big plays and make turnovers. That's maybe all well and good if you're Nick Bosa, but if you're Felix, what you got to do is you've got to do everything the right way, because your job is to make things easier for Chris Jones and George Karlaftis to make their plays. They're the ones that can freelance, and they're the ones that can do some things. You've got to be in the right place at the right time. And that's the thing that I think we continue to see with Felix, at least, is that, as he is kind of growing and maturing, he's doing the little things right.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that tackle for a loss was on the first play of the game, which means he was going up against Williams, I believe, on that specific play, which makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like a lot of the game I was seeing. If it wasn't Felix, I saw some Cam Thomas out there. Hey, Chris, if he was getting the chance and George was getting the chance, they weren't lining up on Trent Williams. They wanted to be lined up elsewhere today.
Got to sacrifice for your teammates, right? Well, everybody does that. Who stood out the most and who gets our game balls? That's coming up next. Hey there, NFL fans. You can get started right now with a big return with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Takes the life out of your middle there. And so when you have that hunch in the middle of a ball game or in the middle of the day on a packed Sunday with a full slate, you can check the latest stats, check out the live play-by-play, and get that so deep into the game that you can make your decisions and go on the same page to place your bets. Makes life super simple. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. It's over at FanDuel. There's a lot of options there, especially when Patrick's throwing interceptions early or we're running the ball really good. You never know what's going to happen, but if you have a gut feeling, check it out at FanDuel.com. You can check out everything Matt is doing over at ChiefsDigest.com and Chiefs Digest here on the YouTube platform. Check out KC Chiefs Corner for all of Chris's work over on Substack. My NFL 33 Substack with my staff runs down the entire league. I know Chiefs are the top of it, the top of this NFL yet again, but there are other stories as well, so check that out on top of RGR Football. A lot of guys stood out to me. I just wanted to call out a couple of guys that I meant to mention last segment, including Malik Herring, who I thought popped up a couple of different times. Leo Chanel in man-on-man coverage on UCheck should be a decided factor in favor of the offense, and he came up big. I wanted to shout those two guys out, and I thought that kudos to Jalen Watson for playing through what is something that I think is going to be bugging him for a little bit. We'll find out the details on that coming up later. But, Matt, who else stood out to you as contributing to this win and getting to 6-0?
Well, and just one thing on the Jalen Watson situation going forward, it does not look good. I know our friend Nate Taylor mentioned that he was on crutches and had at least a walking boot on his left ankle. Andy Reid says that they're waiting for the MRI results on Monday, but it says it does not look good. So I won't speculate on what it is, but it certainly sounds like it's something that's going to keep Jalen Watson out for an extended period of time. So that's going to be tough. In this game, I mean, I think there was once again, it wasn't a stat-laden game. There's nobody that comes out of this that you're just like, okay, well, this was the reason why the Chiefs won. I think that there was a lot of reasons the Chiefs won, but a big one to me, and the big one going forward, is going to be Kareem Hunt. Those were 78 hard yards that he came by today. This 49ers defense came to play in all aspects. So all the yards that the Chiefs got today were hard earned, but 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I mean, just to me, I have no idea. I know the Chiefs got the touchdown on the Mahomes run. To me, I don't understand. When you get inside the 5-yard line, I don't know why the Chiefs just don't pound it away with Kareem Hunt, because all the guy does is just seems to get at least 2 yards in every cloud of dust. So if you're on the 5, you run it 3 times, 2 yards of play, he's getting into the end zone. So Kareem just has been absolutely everything that the Chiefs could have hoped he would be. Knock on wood for their sake that nothing happens to him and that he's able to keep this up. Once the mileage kind of gets to him, we'll see about the longevity and about the stamina that he's got after the offseason layoff. But so far, he's been everything that Chiefs fans could have hoped for in his return, and today was a big day.
It's a huge day for Kareem Hunt, and prayers up for Ayuk. It looks like they think it's a torn ACL. I know that doesn't affect Kansas City, but hate seeing injuries regardless of who they're for. So I look at this game, and I want to give a hat tip or say that he did a good job. Spags did fantastic. Honorable mention, I guess, game ball in my mind. His defense played fantastic the entire game. And one thing that I'd like to point out is one of the things going into this game, Kansas City was at the very bottom of the league in explosive plays. I'm counting right now at least 6 explosive plays in this game. That's not fantastic, but it's more than they've had most of the season in most of their games. So that's good to see. There was a couple of runs, a couple of passes that got explosive plays. Definitely something that you're going to need there going forward. I'm going to give my game ball to Patrick Mahomes. I understand he had 2 interceptions, and I understand that people won't like it because he didn't light up the score sheet. But the reality is he made plays when they mattered most. You have that huge run, that huge 33-yard run, which put them in a position to be able to go down and get a touchdown. And then he stepped up on 4th down, and Travis Kelce, his first reads covered, and everything else was on the backside. He looked forward, saw that the lane was open, and took it in for a touchdown. Got a rushing touchdown, which he hasn't had in a long time. But he did enough to help them win the game, and that's what's important. And especially considering when you start looking around and you realize Juju's basically been their 3rd wide receiver, and now they're down Juju, they're down Rashee Rice, they're down Hollywood Brown. Injuries are just depleting everything they have, and they already didn't have Pacheco as well. So they're going to need to figure that out at the wide receiver position and in the skill set positions as well. But Mahomes did enough to get them to 6-0, and I know he's not going to be happy about the interceptions, but he's 6-0, and they're the only undefeated team in the NFL. And right now they're 2 games up on the entire AFC.
It's a great place to be. Matt, who gets your official game ball?
You talking to me or Chris?
It looks like I'm still muted. I'd hope. We'll see.
Matt, he was asking who gets your official game ball.
Oh, for mine was Kareem.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure that was a number 1 official. For me,
Yes.
It came down to a number of guys. George Karlaftis certainly taking up the slack for when everybody gets the attention on Chris Jones. I thought he played a great game. I do want to give credit to Mecole Hardman, somebody who has not been lauded very much in his return to Kansas City. Mecole, get your head around a little bit earlier on that play next time, will you? But between the big end around, the other catches, the punt return, I thought he played an exaggerated role and one that really gave some spark to this offense. So kudos to him. But my game ball goes to the guy that is reliable, and Noah Gray coming into his own as Travis Kelce's understudy that now is going to be forced into a bigger and bigger role until they get this wide receiver room sorted out. So kudos to him for stepping up. And Andy Reid for actually, I don't think it was exaggerated. They ran plays specifically for him, but getting to that point where you can trust him and roll it out and next guy up and continue to keep rolling. That bodes well for where they're at 6-0 atop the NFL, folks. We're going to break it down all week. Do not miss it. We'll go over where they stand and what comes next with Matt coming up midweek, as we always do. We'll get into the stats and the grades tomorrow, so don't miss that. There'll be more on KC Chiefs Corner, on ChiefsDigest.com, on Chiefs Digest here on YouTube, RGR Football, and NFL. Matt, thanks for being with us post-game and keeping us on all the details in a game like this that sometimes you can get your head stuck in one position.
Hey, as long as the Chiefs winning, it's a blast. So enjoy the ride.
We certainly will. Folks, thank you for being with us. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll be back with you tomorrow to break it down even further, and we'll talk to you then.